Donald Trump gives his administration high marks for its response to the COVID-19 pandemic. But is that a unanimous rating? For his assessment on this, we're joined by Barr, former Republican congressman from Georgia. He also served as former U.S. attorney. He joins us from Atlanta. Bob, President Trump says that he has done a hell of a job in dealing with the COVID-19 situation. What do you think?
I think that the president has taken some very good steps. For example, over the weekend, he issued an order through the Department of Homeland Security that firearms are an essential business, thereby hopefully preventing governors and other local anti-firearms officials from closing gun stores. That was a very, very important step. Making the two U.S. naval hospital ships available to California and to New York, I think is very important. Loosening regulations that prevent private industry from assisting the Department of Health and Human Services in getting products on the market and cutting some of the red tape to get new products on the market, I think are very important steps. So I think the president has taken some very important steps.
Was he a little slow to react to all of this?
I think the administration was kind of slow getting out of the starting gate. I don't fault them too much for that, because it was very difficult early on to really gauge exactly what the problem was that we were dealing with and are dealing with. I think a lot of the fault lies with the Centers for Disease Control. This is an agency that is set up specifically, supposedly, to deal with problems like the coronavirus. Yet they hemmed and hawed. They did not get the proper information out consistently early on. They did not make test kits available that worked early on. So I think if heads should roll here, the head of the CDC should take a lot of the very legitimate blame for the administration's slow start.
What do you make of the complaint by Trump about certain governors not appreciative enough about what he's doing? Do you think he's at war with some governors?
To be honest with you, I don't think it helps anybody for the president to get in arguments with governors. The president, in my view, should be above that. If governors stand in the way of helping their citizens, then I think it's appropriate for the administration's Corona Task Force to point that out. But for the president to get in the sandbox with some of these governors, I don't think helps either the citizens of those states or the country generally.
He's extended social distancing through April 30th. Do you like that?
I'm not sure it's really the job of the federal government to tell me how far apart from somebody I can stand. The role of the federal government should be to provide resources that assist the states, since this is a national problem, not just one that is limited to the states. The federal government should make the resources through, for example, the National Guard to engage in civilian aspects of getting supplies out. But it's not the job of the president, I don't think, of Washington to tell me how far apart I should stand from somebody. That should be up to the states, not the federal government.
How long do you think this is going to last?
It certainly appears to me, from talking with doctors here in my home state of Georgia and talking with the state officials here, I think they're looking to continue a lot of these restrictions at the state level and to be working on this pandemic as a real crisis, probably for the next 2 to 3 months before it really, as they say, sort of flattens out. But I don't think that we've seen the end of it yet.
What's been the economic effect of all of this, Bob?
I think the economic effect has been devastating. Just here in Georgia, there's virtually no traffic on the road. Small businesses, particularly those relating to hospitality, sports, entertainment, food, have been pretty much almost completely shut down. And that has a very significant ripple effect on the economy virtually across the country. So I think the effect on the economy has been very, very, very serious. And it's going to take us, I think, a long time to recover, despite the fact that Secretary of the Treasury Mnuchin thinks that we may be back where we were before the pandemic very quickly. I think that's overly optimistic.
I know you have been a long-time critic of the deep state. Some suggest that Trump is now leaning into the deep state, mobilizing federal power, depending on the government career is in the face of COVID-19. Is Trump in the deep state?
I wouldn't say that Trump is in the deep state, but the president and those top officials in his administration, for example, at the Department of Justice and Homeland Security, certainly, like any administration before them, they look at these emergencies as a way to extend federal power. And for example, some of the technology that government is using in conjunction with the private industry, the social media and social engines, internet companies and so forth, is very disturbing, and I think will continue. That sort of electronic monitoring probably will continue even after the pandemic. These measures, Larry, that are instituted during crises never seem to disappear completely.
Have you been tested, Bob?
No, I've had no reason to be, and I don't want to go in for a test that could be better used for somebody that has either symptoms or has traveled in areas where the virus has been prevalent.
Wouldn't you want to know just out of curiosity?
No, I'm really not interested. I think that we need to use those test kits where they're needed most. And the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, Larry, that the CDC was very slow in approving test kits and getting them out and getting in place a procedure to really make them useful means that we still don't have, as I understand it, the number of test kits all over the country and need the most.
Bob Barr, thanks so much. Always good talking to you.
On this end too, Larry, you take care, sir.